So from time to time, I talk about taking inventory of different states, and what what that really means is looking at how we're representing things to ourselves very often, and um, how we picture things. So it's not what we're picturing. So it's not necessarily the content. Sometimes we do change the content of our pictures, and that can be useful. But this is really taking any picture that you have and just playing with the way in which you picture it. So what I mean by that is, is the picture very large, or is it a teeny little picture the size of a stamp that's, a half a mile away? So there's size, there's distance, there's color, is it color or black and white? And depending upon how you picture things, it has a huge impact on how much that particular content is impacting you. So if you're picturing something that inspires you, but it's a little teeny picture, it's not going to have that much impact. But if you blow the picture up and have it on a huge screen, chances are it will impact your experience a little bit different. If color is rich versus black and white, that may impact you, or most likely will impact you quite differently. And so in a certain way, you're becoming your own internal cinematographer. You're learning how to really choreograph the experiences you're having in your thinking. When it's a way of you taking something that was an unconscious process, something that you just picked up somewhere, and really impacting it, blowing up the things that that you want to blow up, and other things bringing them down, bringing them down to size. And it's interesting because you can hear this in people's language. People say, why are you blowing up this issue? And it's an indication of what's going on in a person's head. If something bothers you and you have a big picture and it's right next to you, that's kind of hard to ignore. But if you keep it at a good distance, that can allow you to get some distance from it. There's another expression that people say, in time, you'll get some distance from that. So this is something you actually can do now. You don't have to wait for time to pass. One thing that I like to do is notice, like when I'm watching a film, what kinds of shots really impact me. Like there'll be an opening scene where it'll be just this huge, wide landscape scene that goes on forever, in stunning color and a beautiful theme music and beautiful light. And like that's a great thing to put in your head if you're looking for that type of mood or feeling. Or if you want something calm, maybe it's like looking out over the ocean, or being up on a cliff and looking at a valley. I love one of the shots in The Matrix where Neo is like on top of a building and he's right at the edge, and he looks out and he also looks down, and it's this huge thing. It really gets your blood going. So that's a fun thing to do. Now, this is all in the visual channel. You can do the same thing in the auditory channel. You can turn up the volume of voices or turn them down to just a whisper. Also playing with the tone of voice. If you're hearing something encouraging, you want like a rich voice that's very clear and easy to hear. And you can also play with where that sound is coming from. It's as if you had a whole range of speakers, and you can design exactly where the sound is coming from you so that it really resonates throughout your experience. And conversely, if you're hearing messages that you don't like, one thing I recommend is kind of channel through a bunch of different tones of voice, because sometimes if you get a different tone of voice, even if the message is critical, if it's said in a soothing tone of voice, all of a sudden the meaning seems to shift from that thing. So if there's a particular person that you've internalized the message in that person's voice, I recommend, swap it out, put it in Daffy Duck's voice, page through a couple of things. And even if you put it back after you've done that, very often it'll flatten out the kind of emotional reaction that may be linked to that. I like to have very rich, I like a lot of bass, and so I'll have a lot of kind of rich sounds around me. And I think there's that expression, just bathing in sound. It's like having the best sound canceling earphones on, and you're just lost in the rich soundscape that's around you. Sometimes it can even just be sounds of nature, like when you really hear waves crashing or something like that. So that's all I'm going to do right now. And that was in the visual and auditory channel. You can also play with kinesthetics. Definitely, you can play with moving feelings around your body and different locations in your body to strengthen the things you want to strengthen and quiet down the things that you want to be a little bit less intense if you're experiencing unpleasant emotions. And I always want to say, I'm not recommending that people don't feel what they need to feel or process. I've talked about many exercises where you actually really go into a feeling. But sometimes, sometimes you might experience a feeling and it's out of proportion to the situation. So at times like that, I like to be able to kind of bring that down to a reasonable level so I can get some more perspective. Now, if you combine these things, combine like rich visual imagery and auditory and the kinesthetics, it can be a very powerful experience for you. It really puts you in charge of what's going on in your system, which is wonderful and powerful. So I hope you enjoy that.